postmodernist critique of Pinocchio is
not enough representatives from the LGBTQT
community. Yeah. So this is heteronormative narratives reinforcing themselves. So also in the theme of Pinocchio, right? So his nose grows, right? And it's this, that's the concept of when you make lies. They like, the lie is like instant gratification in the same way like drinking alcohol and pot is, right? It's a temptation because you get to avoid the humiliation, right? So this is an interesting concept, right? So
I think that was like the only thing I knew about the movie going into it.
Was the lying thing?
Yeah, but it's all like, that's always been like, oh, that Pinocchio, he lies, his nose grows bigger.
That's the common
thing. But then
thing,
if
right?
you really think about it, like, that is a very deep thing, right? Because the more you lie, like, whether it affects you immediately or not, like, it is going to come back to you one day. And I think the line from the fairy is something like, what is it, the lie eventually becomes more plain than the nose on your face, or whatever it is, which is quite deep.
Well, what's interesting, right? So a lie is like instant gratification, right? And so, okay, in the short term, it's better to lie. But then it creates unforeseen consequences because the kickback of reality and the truth will always come back. You cannot avoid that, right? And so, well, I mean, some people live a lie, but no, what I'm saying is that the kickback of the truth is painful, right? So I could smoke weed all the time, fail my responsibilities, and then that kickback of those deadlines I haven't done will fucking savage me, and they'll hurt real bad, right? And so there's this interesting dilemma, like, you know when you're talking to a friend and they've got like cheese on their face, right? I'm always in this moral dilemma, like, do I tell them, humiliate them, right, and make him feel awkward and make me feel awkward to have to admit it?
Yeah.
But like then he's going to go walk around the party, walking up to people going, oh, hey, how you going? Like trying to like charm his way into a social situation, but he's got cheese on his face. And then eventually someone will go, oh, hey man, you got cheese on your face, right? But the thing is like, even though I'm not actively lying, I'm withholding the truth because it's easier for me, because I don't want to see him get uncomfortable or be that one to do that. And it's the same thing where, like, I don't know, like if people have had this where you have sex and you're having sex from behind,
like, is he going to go there?
And you see like a bit of toilet paper around someone's asshole, and then like you don't want to tell them because they'll feel unsexy and ashamed of their body, right? So then you go, you know, maybe you subtly, you know, suggest do missionary or whatever through a
I've
verbal.
never had that experience, mate. I only ever look people in the eyes.
Sorry, man, I'm just obsessed with assholes. And then I only look people in the eyes and I go, I love you, I'm committed to you.
Let's wait till marriage. Let's
wait till marriage, right? And so, you know, but the thing is, you move them in the missionary position, but all you can think about is the toilet paper on their asshole, and so you lose your boner, and then they feel even worse about themselves. So the truth, like, always comes back to get you.
Yeah, and I think, like, just as a general practice, something that I've learned is that, like, it's very easy to tell all these little white lies and everything, but then if you're in the practice of telling lies, sometimes you're unable to tell the truth even to yourself when it's important.
Oh, mate.
Because your compass is gone for the truth, guys.
Dude. There was an Arab who was the circus leader.
Yeah.
That's promoting Islamophobia.
That was Islamophobia.
That's Islamophobia. Pinocchio's going to school, right, to get educated.
It's really hot.
And then these fucking guys come in, and they tell these like tricksters. They come in and they tell Pinocchio that he could become an actor, right? Because they got to make money from selling him to the circus, right? And that he will go perform, and his conscience is like, no, be wary of easy paths to
Performing
success.
sounded pretty good to us,
Mate, I've been doing comedy 10 years. I reckon I've probably, for a guy who hasn't worked a proper job almost ever, I've managed to spend a lot of money. Yeah. Anyway, be wary of easy paths to success. Yeah. Don't think that if you do stand-up comedy, you're going to become successful. Stand-up comedy is like playing the pokies. Like, there's sometimes people win, and good for them. But most of the time, you end up losing your house and your family. and you make videos that only people who hate you are going to watch. So anyway, so in this movie he becomes an actor, right, and he starts dancing on stage, and then Jiminy Cricket, who's his metaphorically his conscious in the movie, that little bug thing, it goes, oh well, maybe this is working and I can fuck off now, right? So he's there dancing on stage as a puppet, and people are throwing him money and validation and stuff like that, right? Now, this is interesting because validation, like an easy path to success might be like, what do we want? We want other people to care about us and pay attention, right? Now, I could potentially join a flat earth subculture, like a group of people who believe the earth is flat, and I just need to adopt their beliefs, and they'll like go, oh Shane, you're really awesome, and they'll validate me. Like I'll be sharing all this flat earth shit, and they'll be liking my shit, and I'll be arguing with round earthies, you know, and then my flat earth friends will jump on and clickety click, and I'll tag in my flat earth, and then I'll go in my echo chamber in my private Facebook group or my meeting with my flat earthers, and I'll be like, can you check out this fucking thing this guy said? What a fucking idiot, am I right? Right, so validation could be a dangerous thing. That's
just what you call the room you keep your computer in. It's actually called the echo chamber.
That's it, mate. Instead of man cave, they should be called echo chamber. As Damien had a funny line, which was how.
Let's use it.
Well, I quoted him, you know, but his line was like how with the echo chamber, it's like, I'm not racist. Yeah, so that was one angle, and so because I used to be a far left radical, right? So I know about the dangers of performing to a group, right, and getting validated for them. So socialist alternative, what they do, all right. So think about it like this, right? In order to get pleasure in life, right, we have to have a sense of meaning. Like this is the way our brain set up the pain pleasure system. So we have a meaning, right? So meaning plus a goal that's achievable equals pleasure, right? And this is what. And okay, if you don't have meaning and if you don't have a goal, then you can achieve that through substance abuse. So some people say that addiction can be a meaning problem, right? And I certainly know when I'm having a harder time, I feel way more like I want to go smoke pot or drink alcohol, right? But ideology, I think, can be a substitute for meaning and a goal in life, right? And so you've got all these people who, you know, will love bomb you. So when people first join like left-wing groups or I guess fascist groups or whatever, they love bomb you. They're like, oh, that's awesome, you care about this thing, join us, right? And so that voice in your head that is there to undermine the narrative gets removed because you've got 9 other voices in your head. So when you're battling whether or not to drink alcohol or not, one voice is like, don't do this. The other voice is like, no, go on, you only live once. And then a cult is like having 9 other voices in your head until that voice of reason is just curled up in a ball and 9 people are kicking the shit out of it. Right, so...
morally correct peer pressure.
That's it. Oh, God. You think, hey, try this cigarette. Hey, try this ideology. Come on, come behind the shed.
Yeah.
And so... With the ideology, right? So they bring you in, right, through love bombing, and then okay, so people will join socialist alternative, and then they'll reward you for saying what the cult wants, right? So the way ideologues work is other people who have the same ideology will be validation for their sense of meaning and purpose in life. So ideologues will look at other people as a chance to get on. You know when you're at a party and you're like, you really want to drag of a joint, and like someone's got weed and you don't, and you sit next to them and you try and be their friends and you hope that that's how ideologues, that's why they recruit, that's why they go door knocking, right? The Christian who's going door knocking, he's not trying to convince you that God is real, he's trying to convince himself by getting you to validate, by convincing you so you will validate him, right? And so as soon as you do what the cult doesn't want to do, they'll turn on you. So in this thing, Pinocchio is rewarded as this performer, and then when he goes, no, I want to go home now, they're like, nah, fuck you. And so socialist alternative, for example, I've heard stories of people who've joined and left that cult, and what will happen is like they'll get love bombed, and then they'll go to leave, and they'll be like, oh, what I mean is, so they'll go, oh, we're having a Marxism conference down in Melbourne, right? It's, you know, it's just a $180 ticket, and you have to fly down and put yourself up and all that. Come on, come down. It's for the cause, man. It's for the cause. And then you'll be like, no, that's actually on Easter and I was going to hang out with my family. That's the only time I get off. And it's like, well, and literally I've heard people say, the response to that is like, oh, you can hang out with your family anytime, right? So, and then they'll be taking away your sense of fulfillment you're getting from the narrative of believing in the ideology and the moral validation you're getting, so that you feel like, oh, maybe I'm bad, and you feel guilty, right? And so they'll use your own guilt and shame to control you. So watch the fuck out. What else?
Cricket?
Yeah.
Like, where's representatives from the other animals?
That's
what
right.
What about a cockroach? They get a bad rap.
That's right. So some people think that Jiminy Cricket is short for Jesus Christ. And that, so what are they saying? Are you saying that some cultures are better than others?
Yeah.
This is a way of brainwashing people with the values of Christianity.
Well, I guess I got a bit out of like the whole Pleasure Island thing.
Yeah.
Because I think I was stuck on there for probably about 15 years. And I very much had the opinion of like, I thought I was superior because to other people that had like goals, 5-year goals, because I was just like living in the moment. And it's like, man, I don't care, I'm happy right now. And it turns out like that was probably stupid. And they're like doing a lot better than I'm doing right now. And that's like a lesson that I've had late, but that's definitely like, I guess it's just interesting. Probably nothing blew my mind in Pinocchio, but just like the little lessons that they're hammering into kids is like really good.
Oh, totally, man. Like,
you know? And you don't really see that much today.
So,
I don't think.
so
I don't watch a lot of Disney movies.
Well, mate, I'm not keeping up with the Kardashians. But what I was going to say, so in the movie, right? So Pinocchio goes to, just putting it in context, Pinocchio goes to Treasure Island, right? Pleasure Island. And then he's hanging out, and they're having hedonistic activities, and they're all validating themselves,
drinking,
right? Now,
smoking,
and then eventually they turn into a jackass, right? And so
very subtle.
We were kind of talking. We were talking about the miners, the fly in and off miners, because like they'll go work real hard for 2 weeks. They'll be like, this is fucking hard work, and then they'll have all this cash, and then they'll have like a week to just have like unlimited money, and they can just feed that instant gratification, and then they end up like bloated, right, drinking alcohol, just that cunt at the bar, going, you know, and it's too late. He's turned into a jackass. And I'm like halfway jackass. Like I've got an ear and tail in like Pinocchio. Like I've been a bit of a hedonist. But
I've definitely got a couple of ears.
Oh mate.
And like I think I was looking out for that point because old mate, our god Peterson, did make reference to that in terms of like the Pleasure Island where they go and trash like what summarised as a sort of church and had modern historical arts and pianos and stuff like that.
So in the film,
it's like who cares about that? Like it's just all.
It's all now. Feed me.
All feed me. There's no sense of like history or like value to that at all.
Right, which is interesting. So what Mitch is talking about in the movie, there's a scene where he goes to Pleasure Island or whatever, and there's all these other young people like him. I think they're mainly boys. Sexist.
All men, yeah.
And then they're throwing rocks and shit at like through like stained glass windows, which is in the 40s or historically super expensive. Like there's actually some. I think they might have even lost the recipe to make some of the glasses in cathedrals, and it's like the thing where it's like, well, this is irreplaceable.
This is it.
And anyway, so they're just throwing that, and they're living in the now. So that's kind of interesting because postmodernism is this idea that, well, history is nothing but the history of oppression, which adds weight to the reasons why you should just go get fucked up now, and you don't need to go. There's nothing good about the West.
Let's just burn it all down. What good was that
and
for?
There's actually a quote of an Antifa professor dude who's being interviewed for his beliefs and stuff, and he goes, "No, I don't want to fix society. I want to tear it all down and start again," which is interesting.
Easy to do.
Well, we're talking about this. So, what's harder, to build a sandcastle or be the cunt who walks by and kicks it down? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot easier to destroy than create. Like, you had this idea about it.
Yeah. What was that idea? I'm pretty scattered.
We did mushrooms, guys. So.
What was that idea?
So you were talking about...
Oh, right. So, just like the idea of how much it is easier to do evil than good, right? Like, I can walk into your yard tomorrow and, like, break your dog's legs pretty easily, provided that it's not a very angry dog. And, like
it would have to be a chihuahua.
yeah, like, and just how much, like, pain and hurt and financial costs that would, like, inflict on the family. And for me to then do the reverse in good to that would be a much more difficult thing.
Oh, totally, man. See, we don't all have fairies to come down like Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Some of us are just walking around.
We just fucking lost.
Just lost all tie to the truth. Sandcastle psychology. Jesus, ovens. And then there's big lies, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it's the Jews' fault. And then all of a sudden you're burning people in ovens. So there's big lies and little lies. There's, hey, the cheese on your face is there, and maybe the Jews aren't to blame.
You're on a lot of notes.
Mate, it never stops.
A lot out of that.
It never stops. The doctor? What? Anyway, so Pinocchio, sick movie.
Great movie. If you have kids,
Get them to
make
watch that shit.
it once a year.
Do not
say,
do not let them watch Frozen.
No.
Alright? Because you know what? Their character development will be frozen.
Yeah.
That's why they call it that movie, alright?
You could do nothing but for your kids, but make them watch that movie once a year, and you'd be a fucking great parent.
Yeah, you could just, that's all you have to do.
Just give them.
If anything, I think Pinocchio is probably
Keep them
better.
alive.
It's a better movie for adults. Do you know what I mean? But like, it's that thing of like, those like sexual jokes in like Shrek or whatever that like will go over the kids' heads to entertain the parent. He has to take the kids out, right? It's like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, the thing's entertaining to the kid, but then it's like Cheryl will remember that lie she told. Do you know what I mean? Or like she'll be, oh,
the year 12 formal should just be everyone watching Pinocchio.
That's
it's
it.
It's like, this is the real shit, guys.
Jordan the Dugong.
As like a representing the Jews.
That fat shaming.
Yeah.
I think there was fat shaming in there. Oh, and the other thing is that the resurrecting the dead father. That's the thing we didn't talk about, right? So in the film, so he goes through these trials, and then his father's in the belly of a fucking whale, which is an archetypical story in the Bible.
That got there while he was on Pleasure Island.
Exactly. So while he was off having a fucking party, the culture. So this idea that the father in the belly of the beast. So the father isn't necessarily your dad, but in the archetypical meaning, it's the father is the culture that's brought you here, right? And in archetypical shit, the mother's nature and shit, right? And so the father's the culture, and so that's being swallowed up, and you have to go rescue it. You have to go into the belly of the beast, right? To resurrect the father, right? So for example, right now we have radical egalitarian movements trying to destroy truth with their egalitarian narratives, right? And they're attacking free speech because, and so that value system of free speech that maybe took thousands of years to evolve, and that is maybe, even though the West has done a lot of bad things, maybe freedom of speech is one of the good things we've gotten right. And then a lot of post-colonial societies where like they finally kick out the Westerners, societies that embody the Western values of freedom of speech and individual and free inquiry do better and prosper more than the ones that abandon that principle, right?
I'm still, like I said before, I'm still wrapping my head around this shit.
So I think that, you have to, I think you have to defend free speech, mate. I think that's one of the things we got right, and
well, I think that's something that probably worries me is the like people's they're not very apprehensive about burning down like like historical things, whether that's societal structures or like actual physical things.
Look, we think culture is everything, so empty, vapid, symbolic gestures will make us feel good. Ripping down statues will totally solve racism, and it's not a way to be malevolent or lazy. That's the harder, higher path, Mitch, because the left is morally pure. There's no society that has ever been destroyed with radical egalitarianism where they've gotten rid of freedom of speech. This has never happened in the history of mankind.
Hopefully they keep wearing their Che Guevara t-shirts.
The truth is subjective. There's no way to get there. Postmodernism is the way and the lie. The whale, the belly of the beast, that's fat shaming.
Fat shaming.
What else was there? What other easy ways can we have to dismiss any idea that there might be some pointing at the truth or objective meaning and reality? What's another way that we can dismiss it?
I think like he just had a great sense of white privilege.
That's right. You know, central characters were white. You know, I think that, you know, if anything, a movie that was made in a Western country not depicting a bunch of black people must be proof of that. And I think in black countries where a lot of their art and literature and films and stuff that might depict a lot more black people is an example of black empowerment. The idea that people operate in ways that are malevolent and lazy all the time, but then they find justifications in the same way you would justify smoking. I'm quitting tomorrow, it's my last packet, or whatever fucking story you make up to justify it. You know, the same process will happen with ideologues who want to be malevolent and lazy. So, Han Monishan, the Sydney siege terrorist, he goes in there, he fucking, you know, takes people hostage. Now, he was up for like heaps of counts of like sexual harassment and assault, and him and his new girlfriend had murdered his ex-wife. So this guy is like absolute of the lowest of the low of evil, right? He murdered the mother of his child. Like he's he's an actual psychopath, not a sociopath. Anyway, he goes in there.
You're missing a term there.
What's the term?
Wanker.
Mate.
Absolute wanker.
Mate, you know, I've done some wanking. And so he goes into the Sydney siege, right? So he takes people hostage. So he goes to the chocolate factory. So he goes to Martin Place in Sydney where you got Channel 7, Parliament, the Reserve Bank. This fucking idiot ends up in a cafe, right?
Like the opposite of Willy Wonka.
Yeah, it's like, he's like, didn't get the golden ticket in life and he's like trying to take it by force, right? But what's interesting, right, is this was kind of missed from the narrative. He swapped side. He went to the side of Islam that, I forget whether it should be Shia because I'm ignorant. He joined the other side, which ISIS is, right? And he converted. So that would be like a Catholic converting to Protestant and then committing a Protestant terrorist attack. That's kind of glazed over, right? And then he puts up the banner and stuff. And he put up a website showing the victims of drone strikes. So his motivation that he was trying to present or convince himself that he was doing maybe was like, no, I care about the victims of drone strikes. The West is evil. He knew he was going down for a horrendous crime. So, but he's so full of resentment. He's, the West is evil, so I'm going to go fucking murder someone. And then this, right? So, school shooters shoot up a school and then they kill themselves because to damage the innocent and then to kill yourself without an explanation just head fucks everyone, right? So, if you're trying to do as much damage as possible, as if you wouldn't try to start a civil war conflict by using the narratives of, this is about drone strike victims, right? That's next level. I hate everyone and I hate reality, right? Just the darkest mind possible. And so, what's interesting is you got all these right wing radicals who came there. So what lazy and malevolent? It's lazy to just walk into someone with a gun and shoot people. What's harder and malevolent would be using his resources to maybe send aid to the victims of some of these civil wars, using his free speech to maybe talk about a better direction for society. That could require years and years and years and years of hard work and sacrifice. Nah, mate. Right, and get this right. And then so he does that, and then the right wingers come in, and then the radical right, you know, the fascists, they come in and they jump on this bandwagon. Look, all Muslims are terrorists. We need to ban Muslims, and they go there and they make it about them. And so they will kind of lost their jobs and stuff or whatever for their bigotry, which I'm kind of in two camps about. And then they did fundraisers for themselves. Okay, they didn't fundraise for any victims of the terrorist attack. They had no relationship with any of the Bali terrorist attacks or any victims of terrorism or the many Muslim victims of terrorism. It's all about them, right? And it's about how they can be malevolent. They have an excuse for violence. Now they can hate the left, they can hate Muslims, they have someone to blame, right? And they can be lazy about it, right? Then the radical left-wingers come, and Antifa, and they go try and commit violence against the Reclaim Australia. They wear masks, they refuse to debate with anyone or address anyone's concerned about radical Islam. That's not valid, right? So them being malevolent and lazy, but they've got the justification of the moral high ground, just like the radical right and this Muslim fucking lunatic, or this, this fucking cancerous hand, Monahan cunt. And so then the radical hand doesn't have, the radical left doesn't have a relationship with any of the victims of, Islamic abuse, or rarely do they do, and if they do, it's usually one tokenistic person who's another ideologue, and they won't actually do anything to maybe help the young kid who's getting called Muhammad in the school ground. They just go out there and be violent against the right-wingers and go, oh, they're evil. So it's this evil and malevolence, man, and cycles of hate, because they all feed each other. All these lunatics feed each other, man. Like, left-wing shit fertilizes right-wing plants, right-wing shit fertilizes left-wing plants.
Exactly. And there's just slowly becoming less and less in the central.
Oh,
totally. Just going to the side.
Totally, man.
I'm an extreme centralist, Shane.
And that's why we're hanging out, because you validate me.
Yeah. It's nice
and I validate you.
It's nice to be in this chamber.
Mate, because it's either an echo chamber or a gun chamber.
We're watching Pinocchio, right, and just having a good time. And Shane's like scribbling down all these notes on these pad and stuff. I was like, I'm just watching the movie happily, like just having a sip of a beer, and I was like,
this has to mean something. More out of this to me. I've got the sunken cost fallacy, and I can't let go.
Check out the stand-up comedian.
Yeah. So like, this is Mitch's day off, right? And I'm unemployed, so I'm on Pleasure Island all the time. So instead of like going fishing or doing something like that, we're taking shrooms and watching Pinocchio. This is what the internet has done to people. What else is there?
Did make those jacarandas out the back look really nice, though, didn't it?
Jacarandas?
Yeah, the old purple leaf tree.
Oh, it did, mate. It's nothing like nature and mushrooms, mate. Yeah, let's not look at nature. Let's go here and talk about ideology. So there's a scene in Pinocchio, right, where there are two tricksters who took advantage of Pinocchio twice in this movie. Wolves.
Quite,
And they walk past Pinocchio and they see Pinocchio walking up the hallway and they go, oh, he's vulnerable, we can prey on him, right? And they go in there, and I think that's how the radical left will approach minorities and vulnerable people, is they go, hey, this guy, we can sell this person some victim narrative. So this is actually the justification for getting Pinocchio to go to Pleasure Island.
Yeah, you had a good example.
Yeah, so in this movie, so Pinocchio goes through the acting thing and he gets locked in the cage or whatever, and then
gets to perform.
It gets to perform, and then anyway, he gets bailed out by the fairy. So that's when your parents bail you out, right? And then he goes to this Pleasure Island, and the way they sell him into the idea that he needs to go, they go, oh, you're probably stressed out. In fact, you are stressed out. You're a neurotic, because you went through that bad experiment. You need a holiday. You need to go here. And how is that not a safe space? Oh, you're being triggered. You need a safe space. You're an oppressed minority. You need us, right? So in the Pinocchio movie, what they get out of it is they get to, like, there's a benefit for them to sell him to Pleasure Island, right? Because it eventually becomes a slave. Now, the benefit for the safe space thing is that it's hard to fight against racism and sexism when it actually occurs, right? But fighting against this abstract notion that we live in an oppressive society, you come in here to our safe space, I get to feel like I'm relating to this issue. So the left will take mainstream values like being against racism and sexism, mainstream values there's laws against, right? and then they'll change the parameters so they get their moral hit and their validation, right? And then they put these people into these echo chambers, these safe spaces, where you don't have to deal with any real problem. And how is this not Pleasure Island, right? Like there's literally like cartoon books and people to regress back to an infant state at these universities. I see your shadow, mate. All right, you people are animals, and so am I. But I'm not fucking trying to hide it. So what else happened?
So much.
Oh, mate.
Oh man.
We had that thing about how Trump inadvertently might say Western civilization. Like he's a cunt. He's an absolute narcissist in it for himself. But like he's just gone to all this weird, like cultural Marxism left stuff. He's just kind of gone nah, right? Like he's just gone to the buffet, and he's fucking like nah, mate. And it's so, but it's funny because there's this division in society, and it's like the balance between left and right. You know, it's like a marriage, right? So like, you know, a marriage isn't perfect, and there's feuds and stuff, and maybe there's arguments, but there's this idea that you work together. Now what's happened in society, the left and the right have split so far apart that it's like, you know, society, our culture, the next generation is like growing up with like a single mum, right, who only sees their dad on the weekend, and the single mum's like, yeah, your dad's a piece of shit, mate. You know, he's a racist, right? And then your dad's flawed, but at least he can provide the fucking money, right? Like jobs objectively are coming back to the US. Like he is literally getting people out of poverty.
He's an asshole, but he's getting it done.
You know, so yeah. He's evil and I'm not. Trump is the problem. Okay, so what else is there? Oh yeah, so dancing, this idea of dancing to the crowd, right? So there's an idea that Hitler isn't just a monster, right? He's a person who became a monster because he was playing to a crowd that would validate him, like the flat earth thing, right? And how is that not that Yasmin fucking whatever her name is?
Abdigail, is it?
A friend of mine calls her Yasmin Abdicate Responsibility. Because like she goes out there and she always plays the victim, right? So
and I'm pretty sure she's playing the victim over in London now as well.
Oh, it's just putrid. Like there's no character development. But what she is, she's the actor for the left-wing narrative of like, oh, here's our victim. They can say nonsense things that don't have any grounding, like feminism. Islam's the most feminist religion, even though like women are struggling in a lot of Muslim countries to get the right to drive cars and shit, or to own property or whatever. And this cunt's just saying garbage, because this is what the left wants to believe. Because the only thing that they don't like is the society that they live in.